So this demonstration is going to assume that you've completed up to the end of steps. All right, so you all with me? So this is probably where a lot of you are. So watch with me here. I'm going to post this after the main Module 4 video so you get a little bit more information on what is to happen at the end of Module 4. All right? So in the Web Workshop folder, if I go in here in steps, at this point I should see all these files if I've completed everything in steps. I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 HTML files in total. All of you should have this if you're completed with the step side. If you don't, you missed instructions, and I've recorded the entire workshop so that you can go back and try and figure out where you missed it. Or you could just ask me, since we're in class right now, and I'd show you, like, okay, you're missing the comment out file. That's not linked or anything. Here's where you do it, and I can direct you to there at least. In your styles folder, you should have 5 separate CSS files, okay? One of which we're going to apply to the other side right now. Okay, then you've done all this work. You should have 4 image files in there like that. We're applying some of these image files to the end of the layouts CSS file, which I already had the links in there for you. Okay, so you should see those image files come up on the containers page, blah, blah, blah. You're done with steps. You're totally done. You're loving it, okay? One quick reminder in steps for those few extra points, if you really want to try and get them, okay, on the very last page of steps, which had to do with background images part 2, some of you may have noticed that some content sort of showed up here, okay, but I didn't actually tell you how to do it. This is the one time finally in steps where I say, hey, we just threw a bunch of content in there. If you want to earn the last few marks on steps and really show me that you've grown comfortable with coding and just adapting your knowledge here, you can put that in on your own. I will not come around and show you how to do this because that kind of defeats the purpose of rewarding the people that really have the hang of this. So this explains it in full. If you don't want to add it, that's fine. You're not going to lose a ton of points. If you do want to add it, that's like your last 5 marks on the step side, okay? And you can add this. You can do all this with all the knowledge you have. It's a piece of cake, okay? And it explains it there. So at this point, then, I'm going to assume that you're on the My Personal Portfolio section for Module 4, and a lot of you are. And a lot of you are saying to me, even though I demoed it already in the other video in the other class, well, what's going on here? I don't really get it. I don't get what we have to do. So I did go ahead, and it doesn't look like it updated, actually. Let me make sure that's gone up there. I altered the instructions a bit so they were much more clear as to what you did have to do. Not that one. Okay, so I want to make sure that you guys see the new instructions in this video because that's one of the more important reasons I'm doing it. So, okay, yeah, they're all here. Why isn't that uploaded? Come on, come on. Good, good, good. Okay. And then I think I changed the style sheet slightly as well. Okay, so if you're going to the page now, which is, we're still well before the due date, but you should see some additional info on there. There we go. Now it's updated. I don't know what took that so long. Okay, so I have these instructions spelled out a little more clearly. And what I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to try and keep this as short as I can, is just demonstrate it to you. So if you have questions as I'm doing it, just ask me at the end because I want this, because people that are watching it can then just pause it and keep going. So what you've done back in the containers page is create, using this full code here in the bottom, some div tags, some divisions in your page. And they look something like this, okay? And then you add some background images, but I don't actually need those on the My Personal Portfolio side. I'm not concerned about the background images. So if you really want to keep your code clean, when you borrow this code and move it over to the MyPP side, you could actually remove the background image URLs. It's up to you. I'm not going to take points off if you don't. But here's what you do. First step, okay? And I'll go through this in the order I gave it to you in the instructions, which I actually think the first step is going to be dealing with your index page. So open up index and open up mypp.css from the personal portfolio side. So right away, make sure everything else is closed, okay, because this is a problem that people keep running into. They have too much stuff open. Go in here, open index in Notepad. All right, at this point in Notepad, if you open it up, you should already have your CSS link. Should be working well. You should have done that at the end of Module 3. You just borrowed a link I gave you and just adjusted the file name. Okay, you should have a bunch of content. Okay, but what you probably don't have is this. So I'm gonna get that out of there really quickly. Okay, what you shouldn't have is this. Any kind of evidence of any divs there, because you haven't done that yet. You have your content you've added up to this point. Your body closes. You're getting a background color, a little bit different version of heading 1. You've gone into your CSS tag for the paragraph and changed the font size. That was your one requirement. A lot of you left it green, which was fine. Okay, you just should have added a font size change here. And then after that, you shouldn't have anything. All right, so I've already done this in here, but I'm going to get rid of it and do it again all together with you guys. Okay, so this is pretty much what you should have. You'll probably have a different color, maybe a different H1, maybe a different font size, but you all have these 3 tags in your CSS, basic CSS, and it's applied to all 4 pages of your personal portfolio. What I'm asking you to do here at the end of MyPP is actually go ahead and apply, let's get there. Go ahead and apply those div tags, the divisions, to the index page, and then adjust them and customize them, and then if that goes well, put them on the employment and education page as well. A lot of people put them on the contact page, which is fine, but you don't really have to because you already have a table on that page, so I'm not going to make you do that. But we'll start with the index page. So we have the index page open. We're already linked to the CSS. We know that's good. But there's something else you have to add to the index page now to get these divs to actually come up. And this happened in step 16 of the containers page. So that's the first thing I tell you to do. Get over to containers, get to step 16, and in step 16 of containers, you're going to copy only from the red to the red, because you don't need the entire HTML. You already have an HTML document created. So I'm on step 16. Everybody look. Okay, see up here? I'm going to take the references to the div elements. So because you can't get divs to come up in your HTML automatically. You actually have to say, okay, let's start a div now. Let's stop a div. Start a div, stop a div. So the way we got that to work here was from here to here in the HTML in step 16 of containers. Copy that. Just copy that code. See, I'm on containers right now. Go back to my personal portfolio. It says get that code and then apply that code in the HTML pages, okay, so that the divs work. Okay, so we're going to go here. So I took the code. This is literally cut and paste as usual. So we're going to go right here. Go to the very end of your content, but before your body. Okay, and we're in index. And I have some, see, I've already done this one. So we've already moved a lot of this stuff into the divs. Okay, what I'm going to do here is take those divs and put them at the bottom of the content. So where my content was just sitting in a big open space with a different background color, I've now left all that, but stuck underneath it the divs. And I got to get rid of these tags because I'd already done this. And I want you guys to see me do it from scratch. So when I go to open this up, there's another closed div. I think I got rid of them all. So when I go to open this up now, this should be back to the way it was, okay, when Kevin had his content just in the main area. And I'm going to show you how he might, it's going to look different than his probably, but how he might then adapt it to the div. So I'm going to save this. Okay, well, now when I open it up, you're not really going to see anything change yet because you haven't added the CSS for those divs. So if I go here and I open up index, what you're going to actually see is the content the way he had it laid out. And I actually did that. You might want to think of a better color for the heading 1 if it's that close to your background color. And then, oh shoot, okay, we didn't want to see those yet. I needed to save the changes I made to my personal portfolio. Okay, and then your My Personal Portfolio file was still the same with just those 3 CSS tags. You would just see this. You would see the content, and then you'd see this stuff down at the bottom. Okay, just some HTML, just text. That's it. Because you haven't defined the divs yet. So this is what you'll see. So then your second job, after you place the div references, like into your HTML, you have to put them in there. And you can see I put them all the way at the bottom because what I'm going to do after then is just move all this stuff in there. Your second job is to get the divisions actually to come up. So to do that, you just take the code from layout and put it right in there. So now I'm going to go to layout, which is back on the containers page. Remember when I gave you that entire code that's 100% correct? You're not going to take everything. you're going to take everything but the body. And the reason for that is because you already have a body tag. You don't need to take this one that has no elements, no values in it at all. Just start with wrap, go all the way down to the bottom. Make sure you get that last squiggly bracket. If you put this in and you're missing squigglies, that's why it's not going to work. Go to your CSS file in Notepad or Dreamweaver. You can work on CSS and Dreamweaver too. Okay, and you should only have one of them on the MyPP side, and just add this to it. So go after, and you can see, see what I did? I already accidentally got rid of a squiggly bracket. So I'm going to make sure I put that in there. And then I'm going to add all that code. And notice how I didn't add body again, because I already had it in there. So once you add this, and you've added the divs to your index page, you don't have to rename anything or do any of that kind of crap, because you've already linked to the CSS file. So I've literally cut and paste to adapt that formatting, to adapt those divisions to the index page here. And when I refresh, now that I've saved that CSS file, those same exact divisions come up in my index in the My Personal Portfolio side. Okay, and this is where I stopped in lecture. So now I'm going to go a little bit further and show you what you need to do to them. Number one thing you don't need to worry about is the background images. I don't care about those for this side, okay? I'm not going to have you moving them back over here. I don't need you changing them and putting in new background images. Just don't worry about it. And if you want to keep your code nice and clean for me, you can go and remove the URLs from the CSS in My Personal Portfolio, okay? So I'm going to have both these things open as I'm working. I'm going to leave this for now, the CSS. Make sure these are all the MyPP stuff. I'm going to go to index, and I'm going to take, for example, okay, so I've got my link, my head closes. Here's everything in my body. So I've got a heading 1, a bit about me. Okay, so let's, and there's another shouldn't have any div tags in there. That's only floating around in there because I'd already done this one. So take that and go into where it says, I think this is the banner area. Yeah, so across that top part where it says this is the banner area, take that content and put, this is a bit about me, right? Inside of that div. So then what'll happen is, if you save that and then go refresh it, you're going to find that that disappears from there and shows up in here. You're going to use this now to lay out your site instead of the other stuff. Okay, so now very quickly I'm going to do the rest here. Just stick with me here. I'm going to go in and take these hyperlinks. You can keep the paragraph tags too. Where do you think I should put them? The nav area, right? So instead of this is the side nav area, why don't you put menu? And then put a break after it. Whoa, Mike, BR, what's that? Well, you guys, that was from Module 1, just a line break. And then after the line break, you can enter some lines in your notepad. They're not going to appear in content unless you actually have paragraph breaks. And then you enter the navigation. So if I save those changes and refresh, okay, you see the navigation goes away, but it's in my actual menu now. And I understand, and you're gonna change these background colors too. But I'm not going to show you yet how to change the actual CSS that affects hyperlinks. You're just going to stick with the standard browser formatting. So it might not be the best color to go on the background color that you choose, but that's what we're just going to leave it as for now, because I don't want to get too tricky here. So then you take some stuff like Kevin's content, which is right there. You take the entire thing, paste it in there. I might as well just do it so you guys see exactly what I mean. Okay. Take the entire thing where it says this is the content area, and you don't need that paragraph. You don't need that heading 2 either. I already have that from his content. Just replace that content. Take out this is the paragraph, okay? By the way, when I ask for 2 paragraphs about yourself, you might want to actually give me more than like a sentence or 2. I mean, Kevin did okay here. He was fine, but don't give me like nothing. That does count. I mean, you're trying to create quality content. I know it's not marketing content, but once you start working in Dreamweaver and building your sites, it will be, right? You refresh. You save changes, then you refresh. So before I do that too, I'm going to grab that list as well. I'm going to take the list, and I'm going to take it and put it into the same div with all that content. That's fine. This kind of stuff that was in there still from the step side should be removed. You shouldn't have any of that. Like this is a paragraph. So what I've done now is pretty much taken all of the information and put it into the divs. Save the changes. You should have your whole site now in the divs. Okay, then what you can do to even further demonstrate that you can adjust this stuff a little bit, and I haven't shown you a lot of this, nor am I going to go around and on each of your computers start doing this all for you, okay? This is where I want people to stand out a bit. I've shown you how to create these divs with the code, and a lot of people are cutting pasting, but some of them are actually reading the stuff like they're supposed to, and they understand that if they now go to the CSS document and go to the wrap, for example, which is the main div that contains the rest of them, and they change it to 1200, okay, but they leave this at auto, which means it's always going to be centered with 0 margins. That means if you can make this 1600 even. That way, no matter what, it's always as big as the person's biggest monitor. I don't think that's a very smart idea, because then if it's too big, it might cut off a lot of content. So what you could do is take something like the body and make that auto and make that the same background color as maybe the wrap. You could do a lot of stuff here. I'm just going to show you what happens if I change the wrap to like 1000, for example. Save the changes, refresh. Cool, okay, so it's starting to go out to the edges. I wouldn't go much further than 1000, although what you could do, you could make it 1600 and then make the margins in each of the individual divisions only 8. Because you know nobody's monitor these days is going to be much skinnier than 8. You see what I mean? Okay, and I'm not going to go do that, but this is how it starts to change. And then I don't like the same colors, so I'm going to start to change that. So if I want to change the color of the wrap itself, to be a standard background color like black or something, I could get rid of the background image URL. You don't really need it in there. And then simply, what's background color? Well, background dash repeat is to repeat background. Background dash color is background dash color, spelled American, okay? And then go like this. Black is all zeros. And there are 3-digit color codes, by the way, which I didn't really go over with you guys, but if you see those will work too. So now here, you'll see that any space that's not taken up by a division turns out to be black. If you want to stretch this out to fill up that whole area before it gets to the black, that's not too bad, right? You go to side nav area, and you just keep making it bigger till it fits in there. So padding 6 width 160, I don't know, let's make it 180 and see if it changes anything. There, it's almost to the black. You see what I'm doing? I'm simply just playing with the code. And edit, see how it closed that gap up? So another 10 pixels, maybe 15, and I've probably closed it. And you can keep doing it until you get it exact, because I'm trying to save time up here for the sake of this video. Let's go to 190. Save changes, refresh. There, see it's a tiny bit too far. So, and Dreamweaver will make this a bit easier for you, because you can keep looking at you keep looking at it in the design view. Refreshes more quickly. Maybe 185. Let's try. Save changes so I can close Dreamweaver. All right, and you notice I'm not doing anything in index itself because these are all changes to the CSS. There, it's almost exact now. I'm fine with that. That's close enough. As I'm doing this, you're probably noticing, well, crap, Mike, everybody's is going to look crazy. I know everybody's is going to look crazy, okay? I understand that. And as everybody's starts to look different, if something gets really screwy and it's off to the side, I'm not going to really take a lot of points off for that, because the idea here is to experiment and to try and do whatever you can to make it look good. When we get into Dreamweaver, you'll see how much easier it is to make everything just tighten right up and be all together. And then background colors. I'm not even going to do that for you guys because that's like mindless. You just go to the color of each division and just pick another color. Search the HTML color codes like we have online and do it. So that's the end of Module 4 up to index. If you wanted to get that little bit of extra credit, not extra credit, but the final extra points, okay, like I showed you to do on the step side where you had to add that additional content, you could go and add this also to employment and to education and move. Now, when you do that in employment and education, you're not going to have a whole lot of content to fill this up. I understand that. So just, you can even leave the divisions blank. I don't care. Just adapt the divisions to the page the same way you have on index. And once you set up all these widths and heights and colors on index, you won't have to do any of that again. You just simply put the divs into the HTML, like from step 16 of containers, on the other two pages. Okay? And that's how you adapt the stuff at the end of Module 4. And if we go back here to the instructions in words actually describe exactly that. So they say, and I tried to be as specific as I could because so many people were confused on this one. Go. Open up, do this in index. So up to about here, I've done all this stuff in index. And then I say, you can keep changes to things around, try the try, you know, different colors, this and that, and now do the same thing on education and employment. Okay, and because you didn't do anything to index, I did give people an opportunity for some extra credit. Okay, and I mentioned this in the other sections as well. Remember back in the classes file, how we made tables look like this? Okay, and it was very simple. We just added some CSS to added a table and then simply added the class to the table tag. If you guys wanted to do this to your contact table, you could do this, okay? You want to earn extra credit? Watch. Take the table tag, take the alt table class. Put it somewhere in your CSS. It can be right below the main HTML tags, but before the divs, like there. Okay, so now you're redefining a table. So now already, by having this in there, assuming you've linked to your CSS file, which you're supposed to do way back at the end of Module 3, when I save it, okay, your contact table, if I open up contact without even opening that or doing anything to it, your contact table should now be formatted with that gray background and look kind of cool and different, okay, like that. If I want to go even further and add that special class to it, which would earn you a couple extra marks, which you might need if you've blown it on some other areas, you would simply go into the HTML for contact, and this is just doing exactly what we did in the step side for the classes file. Go into table, add a property for classes, equals, and put in the name, alt table. Save the changes. Go back here and refresh, and you've got a pretty sweet looking, okay, did I not spell that right? Probably not. If it doesn't work, always check typos and spelling. Alt, oh, did I not put it in quotes? I might not have put it in quotes. Remember, everything after an equal sign has to go in quotes, even if it's numbers, when you're in the code. I got to reopen this. So pull it back up in Notepad. Alt, oh, class, not classes, class. The property code is class, not classes. And this is exactly, I don't mind when this happens, especially in a video, because this is exactly the kind of stuff I keep telling you guys are the little typos that mess you up. So with that typo removed, now when I refresh, you get a pretty cool looking table. It's that format of the table we used in classes. So there's an example of how you can adapt further CSS even on that last page to get a little bit of extra credit. But you guys, seeing what I've done on the index page here, just do the same thing on employment and education. If you don't have enough content to fill it all up, that's fine. The majority of the content I'm expecting to see is on your index page. The rest of it, if you're just listing stuff with a quick description, just put it in the main area. Keep your menu there still. You can add that menu right in, right? And the one where you link to a picture, put that in the menu too. Right? You should have the full menu in there every time. I shouldn't have to say that. I want people to be intuitive enough to go, oh, it's a website. Maybe I should put the full menu in there. Okay, I'm sorry I didn't specify all these things in the instructions, but that's the idea. That's what separates you guys at the end when I give high 90s versus like mid 80s, right? People that do all the instructions but decide, I don't want to do this on every page. I'm sick of this. I'm just going to do it on the index. And additionally, when I get to the end of steps, which is here, I don't want to add this extra content. I'm sick of this. You guys would have the ability to earn up to a 90. But if you haven't done that little bit of extra stuff in each of these, then you wouldn't have the ability to earn 100. That's because there are people that have really dug their heels into this and adapted these skills better than others, and those are the people that will do this, right? And those are the people that deserve the better grade. There has to be a little bit of leeway here for people to do well. Okay, if you do it all and you still screw some stuff up, doing the little bit of extra is a nice helper for you. If like you give me 2 sentences of content when I ask for 2 paragraphs, for example, I'm going to knock a few points off for that. So that's the end of the project entirely. I did kind of briefly get into it in my Module 4 video, but I didn't really get into the details of the MyPP for Module 4. So that's what you're supposed to do. All right, now I'll get around and answer questions.